Morning, guys. It's Thursday, April 3rd, 5:24 a.m. Central Time. Grain markets are lower this morning. They've got the Liberation Day blues. May corn futures down 6 3/4 at 451. May soybeans down 19 3/4 at 1009 3/4. May Chicago wheat down 10.5 at 528 3/4. May Kansas City wheat down 9.5 at 559. May spring wheat down 7 1/4 at 585 1/4. Let's start off the tariffs.
So, President Trump further escalated the trade war on Wednesday as he announced a 10% tariff on all imports that will go into effect on Saturday. He also introduced an aggressive reciprocal tariff policy impacting over 180 nations, including a 20% tariff on the EU, 46% on Vietnam, and 32% on Taiwan. A 34% tariff will be imposed on China. That's in addition to the existing 20% tariff, bringing the total tariff rate on Chinese goods to 54%. These reciprocal tariffs, they will begin on April 9th. Canada and Mexico are exempt from the new reciprocal tariffs. However, imports from both countries that are not covered by the USMCA trade agreement are subject to the 25% tariff that was imposed in recent weeks to curb the flow of migrants and fentanyl into the U.S.
Before we talk about the details and the impact, we've got to talk about the tariff unveil and how this all went down. Did you watch it in
Yeah,
real time? It was like a game show, right?
it
So
was.
everybody's waiting. Everybody's waiting on the tariff announcement and what the numbers are going to be, and nobody knows. And Trump's up there talking. He's up there talking, and it's hey, Howard, bring up the list. And Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, brings up this like comically oversized list. It's like the size of one of those like giant checks that like Happy Gilmore got when he won the golf tournaments,
Right.
And Trump grabs the list and the camera zooms in on him and he starts going through the list of countries and what the tariffs would be. And the markets in real time were absolutely crazy. So I'm watching the S&P and Trump's talking and it's trading higher to sharply higher. And all of a sudden he's going through the list and it just starts falling and falling and falling and falling. And all of a sudden you're sharply lower within 2 or 3 minutes. It was pretty crazy to watch in real time. So here's the list that Trump held up, and there was actually a number of different lists. There was, I think, 4 pages worth of this, but China's going to be hit with 34% on top of the stuff Mackenzie already mentioned. The European Union's going to be hit with 20%. You go down to Japan, 24%. Here is a chart of the S&P 500, which traded its lowest level since September overnight, and this was your tell in real time that the markets were not going to like this, whether it's corn, soybeans, crude oil, whatever. This is what was open when the announcement came out, and it fell apart. And it's still sharply lower this morning, but it has bounced a little bit from the lows. I think we're down almost 3%. The corn market gapped lower on this last night. There's a gap, I think, at about 454 on the May corn chart. The chart doesn't look terrible, but these gaps are not good necessarily. Soybean chart, again, doesn't look terrible, but it did gap lower last night. We'll see what happens here today. There was some retaliation type measure. No, not retaliation, but China and the EU both commented, and China says we're going to urge the U.S. rather to immediately lift the tariffs, and then vowed retaliation, but not a whole lot of details. Same thing from the European Union. They kind of vowed countermeasures as it relates to fundamentals. China is a big deal for soybean exports. They account for 48% of all U.S. export commitments this year. We've got 35 million bushels of unshipped old crop soybean sales to China, and that's a pretty small amount. We've already shipped most of them. We sell a lot of soybeans to the European Union, although they've been shipped already. You can't really quantify the new crop impact. I can't really show you a chart of new crop, but it's not too long from now that some of these countries would start to begin booking new crop purchases of U.S. corn and soybeans. And now that's all kind of in question because of these tariffs. Here's corn. I would say that Japan is probably the big deal. They're the second largest buyer of U.S. corn this year, accounting for 16.7% of all U.S. export sales. And you've still got 108 million bushels, about 31% of what they bought unshipped. So there's absolutely some fundamental risk here. I think what you've got going on in the markets today is more of a sentiment thing. This is what we call a risk off day. If you're a trader and you've got risk on in some of these markets, you've got long positions, you are headed for the exits because you are fearful. In terms of the reaction from the pundits out there, it's pretty wide ranging. You've got people who think this is going to send us straight into a recession or depression. You've got other people who think that this is going to blow over pretty quickly because the U.S., of course, has a lot of negotiating and leveraging power. We buy everything from everybody, and they probably need us to continue to do that. So there's a lot of different opinions. I don't know what my opinion is, but that's the tariff news. That's the big news today. Let's go to weather, which is the second big news today.
Definitely. Historic flooding is forecast for areas in the Corn Belt. The extreme weather event, which began yesterday morning with tornadoes sweeping through Missouri, will span from Texas to Ohio. The primary threat associated with this weather system is heavy rainfall. A general flood watch is in effect until Sunday morning for southeast Missouri, southern Indiana, southern Illinois, the majority of Kentucky, and southern Ohio, impacting over 32 million people. The hardest hit areas could receive between 10 to 15 inches of rainfall, while other regions are expected to see more moderate amounts ranging from 7 to 10 inches.
I've been up since about 2:30 this morning because we had tornado warnings here outside of Nashville. I live outside of Nashville in Tennessee, if you didn't know that. In any case, yeah, it was pretty nasty, and it's actually still pissing down rain in my neighborhood here this morning. But this big band kind of went across a huge chunk of the Corn Belt last night, and there was all sorts of nasty tornadoes and hail and just general storms. In terms of rainfall totals, I don't have the up-to-date stuff. This is through 11 p.m. last night, but a lot of the rain occurred after that. So if you have some updated rainfall totals, you can drop them in the YouTube comments here. But wait, there's more. There's a lot more coming, as Mackenzie mentioned. You look at some of the totals. This is just over the next 5 days. You're still talking another foot of rain potentially in some of these areas of far southern Illinois, Western Kentucky, West Tennessee, northern Arkansas, southeast Missouri, even some heavy stuff into southern Indiana, parts of Ohio. This is going to have some impact. I mean, there's going to be flooding. There's going to be damage to winter wheat crops, perhaps, absolutely some planting delays. There are areas in the southern part of the Corn Belt that would absolutely be planting corn right now, and maybe some of them already have, but this rain is going to hold them up for sure.
If you guys have not checked out our premium content, you sure need to do so. Joe, can you tell our viewers about yesterday's premium video with Matt Bennett?
Matt was on yesterday. We did a corn and soybean spread chat. We also talked about calendar spread options. We went through old crop corn spreads, new crop corn spreads. We did the same for soybeans. And Matt kind of talked about from two different angles. First, he hit it from I'm a grain buyer angle. How does this spread impact me? And then kind of from a farmer angle. How does this spread impact me? And then we also talked about calendar spread options because we've been talking about spreads and old versus new crop corn spreads in particular. And there's one trade, I guess, that we had a lot of questions about. We don't do speculative trading advice, but we answered some of the questions that had come in about some of these corn spreads. If you guys want to see the premium stuff, new premium videos every single business day, you can get our email at 5 a.m. Central Time every day. Text message service, we send out our premium video blast at 10 a.m. Central Time every business day. Just tons of information direct from us. This is a $50 per month subscription. You get the emails, the text service if you want it, all of my cash grain marketing recommendations, premium videos. Give that deal a shot this morning, guys.
U.S. ethanol production increased last week. Weekly output of 1.06 million barrels per day was up 1% on the week, but down 1% versus the same week last year. Ethanol stocks were pegged at 26.6 million barrels. The print was down 2.7% compared to the previous week, but up 1% compared to the same week last year. After last week's decline, stocks have pulled back from levels near those seen in the early stages of COVID, yet they are still historically high. According to Reuters data, U.S. ethanol production margins are currently near break-even levels.
Production's great, very strong, seasonally very strong, historically very strong. The stocks thing is still problematic, even though we've seen a drawdown. Ideally, you'll see the typical seasonal drawdown through May and into June as U.S. Driving season commences, and that's kind of what we would like to see.
Chinese ship sales have declined amid President Trump's threat to impose port fees. In early March, Trump announced he was drafting a plan to charge Chinese ships, as well as vessels belonging to fleets that include China-made ships, roughly $1 million each time they dock at a U.S. port. Although the proposal is not yet in effect, it has already drawn strong opposition from the global shipping industry and the supply chains it serves. In March, buyers purchased only 4 Chinese bulk carriers on the secondhand market, the lowest number since 2022. Buyers are instead turning to Japanese-built vessels. Mercuria, I believe that's how it's said, one of the world's largest commodity traders, has warned that such fees could be catastrophic for U.S. grain exports.
Yeah, the American Farm Bureau Federation said the same thing a couple weeks ago. They said Trump's proposed shipping fees could translate to an increase of 9.5 cents to 27.5 cents per bushel of U.S. soybeans on the export market, rendering us less competitive, which is hugely problematic. We showed you guys these charts a couple weeks ago, but I know everybody doesn't watch every day. These are from the American Farm Bureau Federation. Absolutely fantastic charts. Whoever does their graphics, fantastic work. You can see that China is basically the shipping industry, like the shipbuilding industry relative to all else. China's share of annual global shipyard output is 53%. In the US, we don't build ships anymore. So I don't know. I hope that some of the lobbies, I know you lobbyists are doing a lot of work out there. You're getting these direct payments done. That's for sure. This is something that's very important. And I hope the administration kind of realizes that.
We had a flash sale yesterday. U.S. exporters sold 135,000 metric tons of soybean cake and meal to the Philippines for delivery during the current marketing year. This is the first flash sale of soybean cake and meal this year.
If the future works out in the way that we'd like it to work out, we'll see lots of big flash sales of soybean meal to other countries, because we're going to crush so many damn soybeans that we're going to have a glut of meal in this country, and we're going to have to ship it elsewhere. We're going to crush more beans, ideally, because we're going to be using the oil for biofuel, but we're going to be left with a glut of meal, which we're going to have to export. And we hope that there's a big enough market for it. What did cattle do yesterday?
Cattle futures were higher. Live cattle were 52 cents to 187 higher. Feeders saw gains ranging from 50 cents up to 207. Box beef was lower. Choice was down 232 at 339.90, and select was down 324 at 318.83.
We'll see if the cattle market can tread water here with all this outside news, but it's not good. As of early this morning, outside market, the Dow Jones is down almost 1,200 points. The S&P is down almost 200. Bonds are up more than a full handle. The dollar's down 2 full handles. It's a big move. Crude oil's down $3.37 in the June WTI at 67.86. So absolutely the definition of a risk-off day here in the markets. Have a great day, guys. We'll be back on Friday